Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining the Mental Health Awareness Month series featuring Alzheimer's with focus on Alzheimer's from Analytics for Life or Analytics for Living. We are applying machine learning and artificial intelligence to improve health, innovation, technology growth, and financial stability. So appreciate your attendance today at the Alzheimer's disease focus during Mental Health Awareness Month. So we'll jump right in here. So the objectives today were really to review, discuss Alzheimer's disease patient risk factors that were identified using Analytics for Living's machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithm. Disclosure, of course, right? These are opinions of our organization, Analytics for Living, and not from prior companies or from prior work as well, or any client work as well. So let's get an introduction. So we're going to focus for first just talk about introduction, then discuss Alzheimer's disease in U.S. and Japan. What is not known, right, about Alzheimer's disease, we'll discuss, and where machine learning and AI can assist. And then approaches, right, to Alzheimer's risk. We'll talk a little bit about services, the partnership have with Data Prime, and then discussion. Great, thanks. So Analytics for Living and the Data Prime AI team. I'm James Mansfield. I lead the Analytics for Living solutions and services. We have both syndicated offerings around analytics and also products and services to support your needs. Could be customized as well. We work across mostly in healthcare, but we do work in other industries, including financial services. We have lists on our website of some of the clients that we have worked with as well. So we do apply machine learning or AI to improve health, really innovative technology, growth, and financial stability. We believe that there's a synergy across those three that really provides kind of an offering for us to focus. And then at Data Prime, I also work within the Data Prime team to support their life science initiatives. Background, I have 25 years experience in life science, CPG, consumer packaged goods, financial services, and most recently came from Merck and GSK. Melissa Wheeler joined with me from Data Prime, who leads our data analytics and platform, focusing on executive recruiters to actually staff, solutions around data science. She's the lead talent acquisition at Data Prime, and she has 20 years of experience at Amazon and most recently Amazon prior, and then also Comcast. So happy to have Melissa part of this discussion here today as well. So let's jump into Alzheimer's disease in the U.S. and Japan, and why we're focused on this during Mental Health Awareness Month. So in the U.S., right, we have roughly 5.7 million patients suffering from Alzheimer's disease. Very significant, right? And what's also scary is that as patients go over 65, it's 8 to 12% of those patients, are susceptible, I should say, or develop even Alzheimer's. Right. So, and there's a cost of roughly about 50,000 a year per patient. If we jump on the right to Japan, we see 4.6 million patients, and the rate is much higher, right? 12 to 23% of patients greater than 65, and the cost is significantly higher at 120,000 per year. So, quite a significant challenge for the patients, the industry, the health system, the families, and definitely a key challenge there as well. If we go to the next piece, well, why, right? What are those risk factors? How can you identify if, maybe I'm going to develop or your parent or your spouse could develop? Well, age is certainly a key driver, right? As patients do get older, there's a 2% increase, or sorry, doubling increase every 5 years post 65. So if it's X percent at 65, if it's 1% at 65, well, it's 2% at 70 and so forth. Kind of think about it in that manner. And then also if there's a family history, right? Seems to be some type of family history associated with Alzheimer's. There's also genetics, right? There's early onset Alzheimer's, which can be identified through a gene. And there's also other genetical links that are still being understood. History of a head injury also is come up as one of the issues of if you have had, significant, the head injuries in the past, say a boxer, right? I know you probably know some familiar boxers that may have developed dementia or Alzheimer's as they get older. Well, that's part of it because of the head injuries that they have. Right? And then the next piece is heart head. So what does that mean around heart head? Well, let's say that the patient is obese, or they have diabetes, or they have other risk factors of high blood pressure and everything. Well, that could cause some type of damage to the brain. So there's an understanding that there are some issues in relationship between how healthy you are, how in shape you are, what your BMI is. All those other factors go into kind of, well, could they cause issues around your neurons in your brain and so forth to cause Alzheimer's? And the data does say yes. So there is some heart head issue of that. And the other piece is around healthy aging, right? How individuals um, really age healthy, right? If we look at this couple here that's dancing, very exciting, happy, right? They're definitely healthy, having fun, which is great. I hope we all are there someday. So that's another piece about how healthy are they during the aging and so forth. And the last piece is around access, right? Access and cost to manage healthcare. Do those patients have access? Have they had access to get checkups? Right? Have they kept on top of kind of the age, the family history, genetics, the heart, head injuries, the heart, head things, right? Are those types of factors? Because they're all indicators in terms of some of those issues are. Now, I put both US and Japan here because a lot of the risk factors are similar, right? So there's some similarities around the disease uh, that are across. Certainly, there's nuances why, right? Japan is much has a higher rate of incidence in the US. Well, it could be that there's more um, a more older population in Japan, but still, it doesn't kind of tell us why those rates kind of are higher, right, than the U.S. as well, and they're not normalized. So there's certainly some other factors. So while we're discussing kind of these two pieces, right? Here's the disease, here's the risk factors, right? Well, how can we apply machine learning and AI tools to start? Right? Where do they start? What do we do? Right? So if we look at these features, right, what do they become with? What really start? Where machine learning, artificial intelligence starts is with some of the features, right? And or the combination of features, right? So we look at first of 65 years and older. Let's step back. What are we trying to do? Well, we'll go on the right? Well, before someone has some of these, significant symptoms, you see these patients, right? Before they're there and forgetting, right? What can we do years before, you know, 5, 10, even 15 years, say, hey, you'll have XYZ may have a higher risk, right? Not just on genetics, right? You get a blood test, right? But maybe on some of those other features. Why is that important? Well, maybe there's something that could be done, right, for those patients that they get an early warning sign and they get healthy. Or maybe there's a medication or treatment, right? There's a lot of things that could be done. So it's helpful to understand what those risk factors are, right? And also around research. So if we look at these features, 65 years and older, 2 to 5 times, the rate per year increase. Some family illness or history, right? Genetic testing, is there a genetic test and issues there? Has there been a history of head injury, right? Or a history of vascular disease, right? What's the diet, right? How healthy living were they, right? Or living healthy, right? They were some of the considerations. And how did this patient actually, are they able to even manage their costs kind of over time, or even their burden and illness, or they're able to get access to healthcare, right? So certainly all these pieces on the left are things that are important to understand kind of how these features. Well, why is it important for machine learning and AI? Well, the great part about AI and machine learning is we take all these features and identify, through logistic regression, a probability score for what's your risk factor, right? And score by age. So this way you can give that patient an early warning sign, or right, if you're a pharmaceutical manufacturer or even an NIH or Japan System of Health or Ministry of Health, maybe there's an opportunity to early enroll and kind of screen patients and say, hey, you need to be on the watch out for Alzheimer's, right? Because kind of there's all these other challenges that are there. So when the score is identified, right, then what? Right, what could be done? And I started to set this up a little bit here, but so once that risk score is identified, then what could be recommended? So I think the first part is, let's get the score first, right? Recommend, utilize machine learning, AI, and analytics for living. We have some great solutions that can help in this to analyze unstructured real-world data. What is unstructured real-world data? Well, that's electronic medical records, right? Anonymized patient-level data, even chart data, right? These data sets, they've been around for a few years, number of years, many years, right, for companies to use. Now the technology is there where we can grab all the data, run a variety of algorithms and say, okay, based on these features, here's your risk, right? Well, how do we do that? Well, we can look at an Alzheimer's patient today that's diagnosed. We have in the data that exists, there's 10, 15, 20 years of data, right? So we can look at an 80-year-old, we can see, okay, what was happening when they were 60, right? We look at a 75-year-old, go back, okay, well, what's happening when they were 50, right? What were those symptoms? What were those pieces, right? So then we can piece together kind of a story to say, okay, of these patients that Alzheimer's today, here's the historical, behaviors of things that stand out, right, versus the general population. From there, we can understand kind of what those key features are and score those, right? So then once we have that through the electronic medical records, then we can identify and score patients within the system, right? Right, you have an algorithm, we take it and apply that to the maybe not general population, but to your patient data set, what could be a health system, could be a government system, could be like Medicare, right? Medicaid could be the Japanese kind of healthcare system, right? And from there, we could say, okay, here's the rank of patients. Here's not the rank of patients. Here's the scores of patients, right? And here's those that may be at risk or higher risk, right? Right. I know you're saying, okay, where is this data, right? How do you have that? Well, we have some great experience here at Analytics for Living and Data Prime to utilize APLD, electronic medical records, chart data. Real Health is a great chart data company. Electronic medical records. With Siemens and Premier, a variety of different places, right? Aetna, United Healthcare, right? They have electronic monitors. Health Verity is a new company that's on the marketplace that really does some great things of where they're able to license in anonymized closed system patient level data for analytics. Really kind of opens the door for a lot of opportunities. So that they're kind of pieces in the US. If we go to Japan, right, there's Medical Data Vision, right? It has a great database. They have access directly to the Japan healthcare system, right? So we could similarly, once we have this data, we could run our analytics for living kind of algorithms, for do machine learning AI to help many pieces, right? Whether it be the government, Medicare, in the U.S. Japan health system, or if you're a pharmaceutical biotech and you have a potential candidate, right, for that you're kind of doing research for. Well, maybe we can this can help to identify patients early, right? Or when you're enrolling patients in a clinical trial, you could at least screen them and say, hey, let me grab your electronic medical records. Let's see kind of where you are, so that uh, you're not stacking the deck per se, but you're having a better idea to understand, well, is this patient a high risk, right? Let's do this. Let's apply this product on high, medium, low risk patients and see kind of what the benefits are, right? And it could also recruit kind of early identification or recruitment of patients, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunities here. We believe there's a lot of opportunities to improve, and there's a lot of opportunities here to tease out kind of and one, look at the recommendations, but then also apply those recommendations and data and so forth to go for. Great. So I'm going to summarize this real quick here. So like, what is in Alzheimer's, machine learning, AI in US and Japan, right? We talked about the risk factors, right? Age, family history, genetics, right? Some of the features that we discussed, over 65, family illness, genetics, right? Diet, cost. What's the cost, right? How big is this? Well, if you think about the US and Japan, 5.7 million patients in the US, 8 to 12%, it's $50,000 per year. $50,000 per year. Japan's 4.6 million, 120,000. Cost significant, right? Significant burden, not only the patients on the system, but also on the families, right, and the caregivers and so forth. There's not, as I said, a lot known, but machine learning can help identify the risk factors, get those scores, and then potentially identify those patients for trials or medication treatment other programs. So we're some great innovative pieces that we've built here. We're Analytics for Living that can help um, yourself and team too as well. So just highlight those. So what does it mean in terms of burden illness? Well, this is just an illustrative kind of example here that we can provide. If there are roughly so many thousand million patients that are afflicted with Alzheimer's, right? And there's a 50 to 120,000. Well, maybe there's something, and we can identify those patients kind of right here, right? Well, what could be done for those patients, right? Let's say that this is the point where diet, and let's say in the best world, right, we identify and say, okay, diet is key. If you have a BMI over 25 or 22, you need to do something about that, right? And all the patients adhere. Right, let's think about that, right? So if that happened, what could be that decrease on kind of cost and savings, but also around the patients, right? Now, let's say it's a product that's there, right, or a pharmaceutical product, but the health system, the country, the government, they don't have that funding. Well, that's where the gray comes in the loan. And that's why we have said that we worked with financial services companies, because there is a place, we think, for this, right? If there was already budgeted, right, a government for these amount of services, and now there's a new product that decreases those services, well, those savings have to go somewhere. Well, they could pay for a product, right? A loan that's offered to write, the cost of medication to help those patients, right? And I did say we did focus on Japan and US just because there's real data that's there, right? I mean, there's other countries that do have the real data, like Mexico, Brazil, a number of countries in Europe, right? Then Canada, right? That have the data that's there that you can get your hands on. But what in the case you don't? Well, one of the great things about machine learning AI is that those features can be identified. So how do you apply that ex-US? Well, many countries around the world, I think it's up to 100, use DRG codes, right? That I'm sure you're familiar with. Well, the machine learning AI identifies those key features around those DRG codes, right? So if a country may not have the data, but they license the DRG codes, here's the algorithm, right? If the patient has this DRG code and this DRG code and this DRG code, and their score or number is A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Well, they're at risk, right? So the point of this is that even though a country may have data, even though a country does not have data, right, there's still an opportunity because they do have to manage their cost. They do have DRG codes. They may not have a robust database to look at patient level data, but it's a great solution that we can utilize. And I think it's 3M that utilizes makes those DRG codes, and really great solution there. So just some highlights here to talk that it could decrease those costs, right? And provide some life-saving innovations for patients. So okay, so quick, we're almost out of time here, so I'm going to run through just a quick analytics for living. Right, our vision is to enable analytics for life. We need to improve health. Our mission is to improve access. Right, it's not only just about the innovation of the products, but it's about access to those. We improve lives through that, applying machine learning and AI. And Data Prime, is a good partnership we have, because when we need to do kind of work in analytics and expand our scale, they offer talent services to support those scalable solutions, both in the U.S. and then offshore. So we have some great partnerships to match those skills. They also are a full service recruiting organization that supports your needs too. Great. Perfect. So thank you for discussion today. Appreciate this. And please reach out to us if you have any questions. And it is Mental Health Awareness Month. We did have this session today on Alzheimer's, and I'd recommend you kind of go take a peek at the last week's session on teen suicide. Real, very devastating kind of issue, but I think there's some great places where AI and machine learning can help, with a goal to decrease that. A couple other pieces that you may like to take it catch up on. We talked about the Alzheimer's one, but we do have multiple sclerosis this week as well. We'll be sharing kind of talking about a multiple sclerosis on those pieces. We also have COVID and mental health on the last day of the month here. Certainly not, hopefully not. I wish it was last sooner than later. I think everyone does around COVID, but right, piece on COVID and mental health this week. And then also mental health, we did have some other series on criminal justice system, PTSD, and a variety of just kind of looking at resources, right, on patients around mental health. So really kind of wrap up this month on Mental Health Awareness Month. And then next starting in July, certainly catch our pieces on children's preventable diseases, right, and how our machine learning and AI can help, right? We have a session on RSV, pneumococcal, chickenpox, prematurity as well. So really some great kind of innovation there. And then kind of one of the other initiatives we have is to kind of decrease the rate of vaccination, or decrease the rate or increase the rate of vaccination among patients of children in particular. And last year was about 80 million patients, that children that are not under vaccinated due to COVID, and this year it's about 220 million, 228 million. So we're kind of proposing some solutions here and getting some engagement to kind of support a lot of the governments and so forth on this area. Really interesting topic, and love for you to participate. And the last one we have is around modernization of technology government. A lot of technology systems kind of going to cloud-based, so certainly for those government health systems, both in the U.S. and kind of ex-U.S. and health services or health plans kind of have. So please, as I mentioned, catch up with us on some of those key topics. And thank you very much for joining today. Appreciate it.